I remember I was at the grocery store one time and I ran into a friend and we started talking about tinnitus and found out he had it. And the cashier overheard us talking and she said, "Are you hearing voices, honey?" And I realized what she was getting at. She thought it was a psychiatric condition, and I had to explain to her, "No, this is not a psychiatric condition. This is something that's actually organic going on." And I tried to explain it to her, but she really didn't get it. And I think that's one of the things that we face after we get tinnitus is that friends, family, a lot of people in our lives don't really understand. And even if they can understand, they don't want to, they want it to just go away.
James, could you please give us a review of what you went through? And then we'll get to where you are today.
My story actually began in November of 2021. It was a sudden thing. I all of a sudden developed tinnitus. It was pulsatile tinnitus, which is a kind of a pulsing thing with your heart and with the beat of your heart. And it was steady state tinnitus as well. And it was totally unstable. That's the word I used because I never knew what I was going to get from day to day. But the first time I listened to it, I thought, well, this is just I'm having a bad day. My father had just died. There were a lot of things going on, but it didn't go away. It was several days later that I went to my general practitioner, and he gave me some tips on how to reduce stress. He gave me some Xanax, which absolutely did no good. And it simply started to get worse. And I know now that it got worse because I was so bothered by it. And as I got more and more worried about it, the sound bothered me more. The sound got louder and it was a kind of a constant thing. And so I went to a neurologist, a dentist, a psychiatrist, a whole list of doctors, and found out that I had several things wrong that could have contributed to my condition, my symptoms, but didn't really land on anything. I had things like TMJ. I did find out that I had a eustachian tube dysfunction. Of course, I had a lot of stress at the time. We really didn't land on one thing that was causing it. But towards the end of that first year, I really was getting desperate. I thought, well, this is taking away so much time from my daily life. It's taking so much of my focus away from the things that are important to me, things that I'm interested in doing, even traveling. Things like that I finally had time to do after I had retired didn't look like any fun because they just looked like another opportunity to be alone on the beach and hear tinnitus. And so it got to the point where I realized I had to do something definitive about it. And I had seen some videos on YouTube, people from Treble Health that had talked about their experiences, and I listened to as many of them as I could, and I was really impressed. I was motivated hearing these people talk about their experiences, but I also had the question, how does this play out long term? Is this a long-term solution for these people? Or do they come in, they do some things with an audiologist and they feel better, and then they relapse 6 months after they're finished with their treatment? How does this really work out? And so that's why I'm glad that you invited me here today, because in my case, I can tell you that it has been a long-term change for me. The tinnitus retraining therapy that I did has been it's been a remarkable thing. It really was what got me within, I would say, a month and a half to the point that I realized I was gonna get my life back, and before that point, I really had doubts. I doubted whether it would ever be the same. So, I can tell you that from 3 years ago when it started, and then I waited a year before I came to Treble Health, and I don't advise that. I don't advise for people to wait that long. It really has been a remarkable turnaround. I keep using that word remarkable, but I don't know what else to say. I didn't expect the kind of results that I got. I hoped for them, and I worked hard with my audiologist, but I felt in the end that when I got to stage 4 of what you call habituation, I was confident that no matter what happened, I could deal with it.
Could you explain to us really, what did you experience over that treatment? Did the volume get lowered? Did you learn how to manage it better or both? And where are you today?
Yeah, the volume did, and a lot of people are concerned mostly with volume, but I was concerned with the distress that it caused me as well as the loudness of it. And both of those things went down over time. Within the first 6 months, I remember thinking, wow, when I started out, my volume, I would say, was 7 or 8, and it was down between 3 and 5 by that point, and sometimes I would have days with 1 or 2. And, gradually, it actually got better. The volume got better as the distress decreased, and I think, that was telling with me because I did find that as I understood more of what was going on, as my limbic system calmed down and wasn't having a field day every time I heard the noise, or should I say noises, it would be less and less as far as the volume. Now, I will say that, yes, you're right. I still consider myself to have tinnitus, but it's back there somewhere. It's as if the brain has refiled it somewhere in the back filing cabinet where it's really not important anymore. So I a lot of times will go a long period of time without thinking of it. And then when I do think of it, it's more like instead of, oh my God, there it is again, the world's coming to an end. It's just like, oh, that again. And so it can be an annoyance, but it's not something upsetting or something that consumes you. And let me back up and say that the first thing I noticed when I noticed improvements, the volume certainly was going down, but I noticed that I had fewer spikes. And when I did have a spike, it was shorter and it wasn't as severe. The first time my dogs started barking so loud that, before I did treatment, I would have had a spike that lasted, a day or two. And I remember one night the dogs barked and barked, and I realized that there was no effect on my tinnitus when that happened. And that was the first clue that I had that something was changing, something was getting better. So that was pretty exciting, actually. I know that was a circuitous route to a short question.
If you follow Treble Health and get value from these videos, I would highly recommend that you watch the full video from this clip right here or subscribe to this clip's channel. Every little bit counts, and your support means the world to me. This is Dr. Ben Thompson with Treble Health.